Well, welcome. I'm glad that you all are here with us today. So we've got some incredible individuals who are here to tell the story about the great organizations that they're running in the Seattle area that is having a significant impact on the diversity in technology. I'm Karen Jewell. I get the great pleasure of getting to lead one of our global teams that works with all of our community members, including our Microsoft MVPs. So I want to start giving you all a chance to share about your organizations. So Saranya, we'll start with you. You're a software development engineer at Amazon, and you lead the Women Who Code Seattle chapter. So I'd love to know more about Women Who Code and what's happening in Seattle with that organization.
Yeah, thank you for having us today, and thank you for having this panel. Hi. So Women Who Code is a global nonprofit organization, and our mission is basically to give women the skills to be successful in the tech industry. I got the opportunity to start the Seattle network about 3 years ago, and we are just shy of 3,000 members. So our membership has definitely exploded. When I think about what we're doing in Seattle, one of the things we had to do was kind of figure out our membership base. And we sort of categorize them into three very broad groups. We talk about women who come from a traditional CS background and are just looking for a community to sort of fall back on, someone to hang out with after work. I come from that kind of a background. I have a traditional CS degree, and I've been working in a tech company. The second group of women is women who've been in the tech industry but have taken a break. They've raised families, they're coming back after 10, 15 years, and now want to be part of this industry again. It's a completely different environment, so they need to kind of sort of rejigger their skills in terms of what it takes to be successful. And then the third category is women who come from a completely different background. They've been doing some other sort of job and are now interested in coding, or have attended a coding boot camp and are now trying to disrupt the tech industry. So the way Women Who Code kind of addresses this is we have events. And again, in terms of events, we think about, I'm an engineer, right? So everything is sort of broken down into sub-problems. The way we think about these events is, one, we need to give you the skills. So we hold a lot of technical workshops. For example, later, I think next week, we have an introduction to Docker. So one is giving you skills. The second is basically giving you opportunities. So we hold a lot of networking events, places where you get to meet recruiters, you get to meet engineers from other companies. We've also held two annual conferences, a really good place for you to meet and network with everyone else. And then once you have the skills and you have the opportunity, you just need the skills to sort of capitalize on those opportunities. So we help you with things like resume review, interview prep, pretty much all it takes to get into this industry and to basically stay there. So it's an fairly involved process, but Seattle is a extremely forgiving community. So we experiment with a bunch of events, and we've had success in some and not such great success in the others, but we're continuously improving the process.
Wonderful. Applying that learning mindset, which is huge.
Yep.
Try and then adjust. And Alexandra, you join us as the sponsorship and engagement manager at Ada's Development Academy. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to hear more about what is Ada's doing and who specifically are you targeting to help and bring into the tech industry?
So I'm from Ada Developers Academy, and we focus on women and non-binary people. We focus on people who don't have a traditional CS degree, so maybe someone who missed the boat, they went to college, got their degree in biology or communications, but always sort of had that bug to do computer science, but maybe were pushed away from it too early on in the beginning, maybe around high school or college, where they walk into a CS class and it's all men and they don't really feel welcome there, or they were told maybe, oh, you're not great at math, so maybe you should try some business or something else. So those people who were always had the desire and drive and aptitude for coding, but just never had the chance and had the opportunity to take it there. And so it's a year-long program. It's 6 months in the classroom and then 6 months with one of our sponsoring companies where they go in and do an internship. We've graduated about 106 women and people and non-binary people. And we have a pretty good placement rate out there. So it's full stack engineering, and they just go out there and work after that.
That's awesome. 106. Congratulations. That's That's an accomplishment. It's making a difference for sure. And David, you are one of the co-founders of Unloop, which I'm really excited to have you share with the rest of the people here what Unloop is doing and who you're focused on helping. And we'll talk a little bit later about the partnership between you and Ada as well.
Yeah, so Unloop's mission is to enable people who have been in prison to succeed in careers in technology. And so most people coming out of prison do not have access to living wage employment. In the US, about 2 out of every 3 are not able to find a job up to 1 year after they release, right? And so we know that living wage jobs, like it's necessary, it's critical, and it's one of the things that is the most predictive of somebody being successfully re-entering into the community. And there's a lot of reasons why that is, right? Like people often don't have access to training in high-wage, high-growth industries. Lots of times they don't have a professional network that they can go call up and get a job. And there's a stigma of a criminal record. That's a real thing in the job market. If you have a criminal record, you're half as likely to get called back for an interview as somebody without keeping experience and all of that the same. And so Unloop has its roots in the tech industry, and what we were really seeing is that like we're in this like opportunity bubble, right? Like we have all this opportunity, and so one of our big goals is to try to make that opportunity as accessible as possible to people coming out. And so when we got started, we just got started doing robotics workshops. So we partnered with a couple local community colleges already doing work on the inside, brought a handful of devs out to the facility and built robots together. And it was super fun and everybody had a blast. But the feedback that we kept getting is like, all right, these like one-day workshops are okay, but where's the thing that actually like gets me a job on the other end? And so about a year ago, we launched in partnership with Tacoma Community College at Washington Correction Center for Women a 1-year full-stack JavaScript web development program. And so we're almost through our first cohort. We've got our first set of students that are about to graduate. And then in a couple months, we're going to be launching at Monroe Correctional Complex as well. And the other big piece of what we're trying to do is like really in the tech industry, doing that organizing to talk about like mass incarceration in a lot of spaces where like that really doesn't come up, right? And build a community of people that are supported and invested in the success of people coming out, including employers and educators, including Ada and Floodgate, and just professionals to come out and be mentors and sponsors for people when they're releasing.
That's wonderful. Hopefully that stood out to all of you. I know when I read that, I thought, wow, especially as you get into the facts around the opportunity or lack thereof of people that have been in prison. And Davaris, you join us as the CEO and co-founder of Floodgate, which I know is in Seattle and Oakland. Yep. And I would love to know more about who you're helping and why, in particular, you targeted that as the purpose of Floodgate.
Yeah, how's everybody doing out there? I know it's after lunch, so just want to make sure you're awake for all this good information that's coming your way. Honestly, I started Floodgate as an outcry to the for-profit boot camp industry. So Floodgate is a nonprofit. Much like David said, I feel like we're in a new gold rush. A ton of wealth has been created in the tech industry, and by and large, brown and black people are missing out on that just because we don't have access to adequate training. And unfortunately, there's a lot of exposure and awareness programs out there. I mean, not unfortunately, but that's a good thing, right? Like, you need to know what's possible, but then there's this big letdown after it, right? Like, you would never fly a plane that was built by somebody who learned how to do it in the weekend, right? And so it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, I can learn how to build a website in the weekend, but that's not actually going to translate into me having a job. So for me, I literally just took the best of all of the training programs that was out there, and we created a year-long training program. So we don't say that we're a boot camp, we're an apprenticeship program. So you do 3 months in class, 3 months on the job, 3 months in class, 3 months on the job. Specifically in Seattle, we focus on helping the Central District. It's an area of rapid gentrification. But one of the things that we're unapologetic about is our mission to help brown and black folks of this area. And so we literally, for our first cohort in Seattle, we focus on full stack JavaScript here in Seattle. And after the first 3 months, you're going to be a great UI engineer. One of the things I hate about a lot of these boot camps that are out here, they say after 12 weeks, you're going to be a full stack engineer. Like, that is unrealistic. And a lot of people who graduate from these programs, they sit on the bench for about 3 to 6 months after that, you know, building their portfolios, building their skills and all that stuff. So for me, I just basically go out to the companies. We partner with companies such as Microsoft, Expedia, Amazon, and we say, look, After 12 weeks, we're going to give you a cohort of interns that are going to be UI engineers. They go work, come back to us for another 3 months. We teach them how to build the back end. So then that's when they learn the full stack, right? And they go back to those programs, to those internship programs. Another cool thing about our program is that we provide a lot of wraparound services. So if you go to these boot camps, right, I notice a lot of folks are crashing and burning, right? And so we provide mental health support. We actually partner with local gyms to give you health stipends. We actually give a stipend out, right? So you get $1,000 a month. And then we incentivize all of your professional development with cash, right? So if you write a technical blog post, we give you cash. If you go to a meetup, we give you cash. If you host a meetup, we give you cash, right? So all the things that we know as hiring managers, engineers that are like little hacks to get you out there and, make you get placement faster, we do those things. And so we wanted to be really, really intentional about the type of program we created for our audience, so we don't have to deal with stuff like culture fit and all those other crazy things that people that look like me, experience when we get on a job. One of the kind of classroom dynamics that we have also as well is that we guarantee all of our cohorts will be at least 25% women. And so we don't start a cohort until we have 25% women. We don't compromise on that. One of the things that myself and my co-founders, we have a list of 5 things that we will not compromise on, and we want to make sure that our environments are inclusive for everybody to come in and learn, because as you guys know, and it's actually a scientific study I found out, when you learn things that are unfamiliar to you, you actually induce the chemical in your brain that induces stress into your body. So imagine walking to a place with people that don't look like you, and you're learning a technical topic. You get it doubly bad. So, yeah, that's why we created Floodgate, and that's what we do.
I love it. One of the things that I think is really neat is the focus. Hopefully you heard that as each of them were talking. They're being very intentional about what they're trying to achieve with their organizations, and I think that's great, right? But one of the things that also I wanted to have shared is the partnership. I know that ADA's, and maybe Floodgate as well, but I know ADA's and Unloop, that you are partnering together as you're looking to tackle this problem around not only getting more women and people out of prison into the tech industry. So I'd love to know more about how did that partnership come about? And because of the partnership, do you see that you're able to increase impact in the area? And how might more nonprofits do that, really partner and say, here's my focus, but maybe there's another organization I could work with?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about it. I'd say Unloop really looks at folks like Ada and folks like Floodgate as our role models, right? Of like folks that have done it right, And I think what's been really cool as we've entered into the community and been like, hey, let's talk about mass incarceration and let's talk about getting people jobs. Like the other folks in the community has been like, yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. How can we help out? And so they've just been super generous with us. Like they're sitting on our industry advisory board, advising on our curriculum. And like the cool thing is to see the impact that they're having on the community, because like folks that have graduated out of the ADA program are like some of our best volunteers. Like they get it, right? And they're so down to help out and plug in and support folks that are just starting out. And so I think like for us, like huge wins are when folks are coming out of these programs, because we know that that's having an impact on the broader community. And like collectively, the impact that we're having on the broader community is going to make it easier for everyone. So I don't know if it's like a partnership or if you guys are just like helping us. I think it's probably more of that. But yeah, it's super, super valuable for us.
And also, I mean, Devarius mentioned it a little bit. We're always trying to, since there is this big flood of like different like for-profit groups out there, we're all nonprofit. Nonprofit. We're all nonprofit, and so we're always trying to find people that are mission-focused and mission-driven. One thing about ADA is sometimes people don't realize that we are a social justice organization. I mean, we also have to really focus on making sure that our class is diverse. We make sure half of our class is brown. We make sure, or non-white, we make sure 25% of our class is underrepresented minority. So we're always trying to make sure that we're keeping up with that mission and keeping up with just making sure we're not contributing to the problem. So the partnerships that, like, Floodgate and Unloops, and what we're trying to do is just make sure that we take care of each other in this crazy climate. Because, I mean, there's a lot of for-profit people out there that are selling a lot of crazy things, and we just don't want to be a part of that problem.
That's great. One thing that stood out when I was looking at bios is Saranya is a full-time software development engineer at Amazon, which I'm not a software development engineer at Amazon, but I have a feeling it's a pretty significant role. And yet you're also taking on this role in leadership with Women Who Code and hoping and seeing great growth here in Seattle. So I'd love to know more about how do you strike that balance? How do you decide where to prioritize your time and find really that energy and passion to continue to give back into the community through Women Who Code?
It's a really good question and something I've struggled with for the last 3 years. I still have not perfected it. There's still times that I'm like, oh my God, I have too much to do. But basically, so as I said, I started the network about 3 years ago, and I co-founded it with another person. But in a couple of months, she actually had to move to California. And we were seeing like good growth in our first year. We were seeing about 100 members join every month. And I was like, I can handle this. Like, I can be that one-woman machine, and I'll take care of everything. And again, I'm a little bit of like a data freak, so I used to watch stats of like how many members are joining and how many are like active, and that graph was like going up, and once my co-founder left, it started like falling off, and I'm like, whoops, I have a problem. So one of the things I had to do was kind of recognize that I can't just do it all. Like, it's not practical at all. I do have a full-time job where I have to perform, and there are certain deliverables I have to meet, and that's why I get paid. And then this is my volunteering role, and I have to make this work as well, and I have to give it like enough time. So one of the things I did was reach out to our community and ask for help, saying that this is an organization that's growing. Are any of you interested in being part of like the core organizing group? And I got great response. So one of the things I did was actually build this concept of, oh, you need like a core organizing team. So I started off with 3 members who came from extremely different backgrounds. One was from a startup, one had a startup, and one came from like a sales background. So we sort of like meshed all of our skills together and came up with even like a vision plan for Women Who Code. I literally wrote a 2-page document and passed it around to these guys and like, this is what we're going to do this year. And we actually did do it. So yeah, that was number one. And we've sort of continued that over the last 3 years. The core members like come and go. Everyone has commitments that they can make over time, and then they have to do other things. But now we are a 6-member group. So I try to keep that going. I think one of the other things I realized I had to do was, in the beginning, I was separating my Amazon job from my Women Who Code responsibilities. And a lot of the times, I had to just disappear from work, right? I'm organizing a 2-day conference for Women Who Code. I'm not at work. My team members like, where are you going? And I used to just say, I do this thing on the side called Women Who Code, and they never really got it. So one of the things I had to do was sort of bring them in, like blur the lines a little bit. So one of the events we do with Women Who Code is like interview prep, where we help our members be good at like interviewing for technical jobs, because it's pretty intimidating and hard. So one of the things I did was I took a few of my team members from Amazon to those events and kind of gave them an idea of it's a completely different like environment. And then they got the opportunity to like lead work groups. So that was super useful as well. And I think the final thing I just sort of add is you kind of asked about like what keeps you going. And that was also like, it's a very nuanced thing, and it's kind of, you have to kind of figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And this is like a super cliched answer, but like working for Women Who Code does give you, you basically meet people from all walks of life. And then you see that you, by like putting up a certain event here or like doing like other kind of conferences on like basically having like these different kind of events can have an impact in their life. And I'll just share a quick story. A couple of years ago at one of our interview prep events, I met a woman called Laurie, and she basically had taken a break from the tech industry. She had raised a family for the last 15 years. And then now she was just trying to teach herself iOS development. And she came to our interview prep sessions because she's like, I need help with interview prep. I'm not landing a job. So she was a regular in those events. And then we actually held an annual conference where we had a career fair. And she actually landed a job through that career fair. So those sort of things are like extremely gratifying, right? And it just tells you that I have to put in a couple of hours of work every week and just suck it up sometimes. And I've had a really hard day at work, but then I come and do the Women Who Code thing anyway, because somewhere it will impact somebody's life. And if you can if you can impact at least one person's life, like that's enough, right? You've paid it forward. That's all you need.
I love that. And it also ties in really well with the stories, right? I think anytime you leave and you go, wow, I made a difference, or a story stays in your mind, you're more likely, one, to remember whatever you just heard, and two, hopefully act on it. And so I know Davaris and David, you both probably have incredible stories about somebody that your organization has impacted. So Davaris, I'd love to know, I mean, I'll let you pick two if you have to, but like really, what is a story that really illustrates what Floodgate is trying to achieve and the kind of impact you can have in an individual's and maybe even a family's life? I mean, I know the stipend stood out to me that that's something you do.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things is around the kind of for-profit space is that what they do a lot of pruning, right? Because they're geared for the optimal graduation and placement rates. So they force their students to do basically like 2 months of JavaScript, learning and tests and interviews before you can even start the class, right? And so my thing is like, look, I just take people from zero. So my very first pilot program, we do DevOps down in Oakland. And I was teaching exposure programs, basically, how do you build a website? How do you build a mobile app? Let's do it in the weekend kind of thing. And there was one student that was really, really great. A couple students that were really, really great, David and Juan Antonio. And outside of those exposure classes, that's really all the tech experience that they had. So I said, hey, told them about Floodgate, would you want to do this thing? Juan Antonio's first generation Mexican immigrant. Parents don't speak English, comes from a family of 6. David, East Palo Alto, all types of, same story, any hood USA, right? Like mother wasn't around, father wasn't around, grew up in the foster system, all the like gangster's paradise kind of stories, right? But over the course of 16 weeks, David was working, he basically built presentations for conferences. Juan Antonio was a personal trainer. After the 16 weeks, Juan Antonio got hired by Medium as a DevOps engineer. Juan Antonio was making $15 an hour as a fitness instructor, 24-hour fitness. Now he's making $110,000. David was making presentations, hustling, doing it for $200, $300 a pop, maybe doing it on Upwork or something like that. Now he's making $90,000 as a front-end engineer because he actually took what he saw in DevOps and said, yo, the tools are ugly. Like, how do people work with these things? And literally took the front-end knowledge that he had and built a tool and shopped it to a company, and they said, yo, this is amazing. Come do this full time. And so those are two stories where, like David said, like this is the new wealth boom, right? Think about when Google first started, you had support engineers making $70,000, but they got stopped. Like one of my friends is a customer support engineer at Google in 2004. This dude has more money than God right now, all right? Like he's an angel investor in Silicon Valley, all right? And it's like, dude, you barely graduated community college, like seriously. But he has the money to do that, right? And it's like, if you have the wealth, a lot of the stuff, the societal ills that we have, it don't matter, all right? Like David now has a home. He was sleeping on his brother's couch. Juan Antonio was in a home with 7 other people. Now he can actually have an apartment on his own. He can feed himself. He can be food secure, right? He has health care. David had health problems beforehand. Now he can go to the doctor, like just basic things, all right? Like that we don't have to think about anymore when you have a stable source of income and a career trajectory. And so that's why I do the things I do. Like, all these things, like days I just don't want to do curriculum. I don't want to teach. I get in the class and I see 15 people and I'm like, you know what? This is going to change their lives. And if I don't do it, who else will, right? There's a whole bunch of people out here making them sign up for bad loans and all this other stuff and basically telling them to sell their soul to try to become a tech person. And it's like, why do that? You have options. You can do something else. And that's why, we all partner. We all do the things that we do.
Don't
Very
go to prison
powerful.
to get it unlooped, though.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't go that option. Not recommended.
Yeah. And David, what about you with Unloop? Very powerful story, Davaris. I mean, talk about changing an upward trajectory. What about somebody that's really stood out to you that you worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's been cool about So like our cohorts are super diverse, right? We have like students that are like, 23 years old, been down since they were 18, students that have been in for 20 years, like students that are older than 60 that are releasing to rural Washington, right? And what's cool about all of them is like at some point when they get like a taste of like just knocking it out of the park, you see like this tenacity just like turn on. And it's like they get like this drive that's like unbelievable, right? Like prison is not a place that's like set up to make people successful, right? Like there's no internet on the inside. Like right now people don't have access to computers outside of classrooms. Like the food sucks, right? Like you get transferred all the time. It's like, it's hard to make it, right? And when people see like that, see that path and that opportunity, then like something changes inside of them and they just like start going, right? And what's exciting to me is like, like we have a student who's never used the internet before that's building full stack web apps now. We have a student who thought that coding was like customizing a MySpace page that's building like a Twitter clone right now, right? So like you see like this massive transformation in where our students are at. And like what's really exciting for me is like when you take all of those barriers away and they get out and they have access to Stack Overflow, for God's sakes, like what's going to happen, right? They're going to just like knock it out of the park. And that's what's really exciting to me is like to see somebody's trajectory like long term and see where they really end up.
Can I just add on to something real quick? The interesting thing is that all of the issues that regular employees at companies have, right? Like dealing with stress management and conflict and all that stuff. Like, I hate to put it like this, but one of Juan Antonio's brothers got shot during class, right? And it's like he has to deal with that and come to work. Like you're worried about, I couldn't get in the carpool lane today, right? Like. If I can deal with that type of trauma, then dealing with a server that goes down, it actually is not that bad, all right? And it's like these are the things that we have to continuously teach people to use their experience as not a bad thing. Use that as a badge of honor to say, look, I know how to deal with all of that other stuff. Engineering is easy, all right? I have tools to help me with that stuff. It's the other stuff that I can't plan for that I've been dealing and finding coping mechanisms how to deal with my entire life that, makes me a stronger candidate than, regular person number 5 over there.
Great input. I know all of us are getting ready to leave Build in the next couple hours and go back, hopefully, to our communities and really think about what can we apply, what can we do. So this has been a chance to really hear in the nonprofit space and the helping others space what each of you do. So what might be a recommendation or a thought that you would have to somebody else, either how they themselves could get involved to help community or what you might encourage them to consider in terms of the giving back motion and really helping others come into tech where there is such a vast amount of opportunity and such upward mobility that can really happen with that. And Saranya, we'll start with you and then just come on left.
So I think like all of these are great organizations and there are more out there, right? Like you just go on Meetup and you'll discover so many more. But I guess the point I want to make is bringing about diversity is like a cultural change. And it sounds like this massive thing that you're like, I'm probably not going to make much of an impact. But I'd just like to say that like each and every one of us can sort of help in whatever small way we can. And one of these, like I go to a lot of diversity conferences, and I mean that in a good way. But one of the things I heard someone say is, think of diversity as basically ask yourself, whenever you're building something, whether you're a coder or whatever your line of profession is, what kind of a sandwich are you building? And I'm a foodie, so like this instantly connected with me. So if it's going to be all bread, you're probably going to hate it. If it's going to be like all meat or all veg, you're not going to like it. So what you need is like a little bit of like toasted bread, and you need like some slice of like a turkey or ham, and then you need some mayo, and like you need like condiments. And so basically think of anything that you're doing as building that awesome sandwich. So if you are like a software development engineer like me, you're an individual contributor, you're focusing on like getting your tasks done, and you need like feedback from others. Don't always go to that one person who you know will give you great feedback and you're gonna be like, this is done. Go like challenge yourself a little bit, go out of your comfort zone and like reach out to folks that you generally don't reach out to. Like basically seek out diverse perspectives. The same way, if you're in a position where you're a senior engineer or you're a manager of a team, make sure you're actually seeking out these perspectives. It's not enough to have diversity in your team. They need to feel as if they're included. I think the previous panel was talking about how you're in a meeting and someone says something, or basically they're being hesitant in terms of speaking. Basically build an environment where everyone feels like they can just share their ideas and not feel judged. So as I said, it's a cultural change that we need to bring in the tech industry, and it's not going to there's no silver bullet that you can just basically make this happen for everybody. It's going to be day by day, year by year, but just try to kind of bring that about in your environment, and I think that's all I have. Yeah.
Awesome. I would say, well, money. We always need money. We're nonprofits, so that would be one thing. And also, I mean, we have about 50 plus company sponsors out there, and I'm constantly pushing companies when they tell me that they care about diversity and they want to be inclusive, and they sort of give me that really big smile to really have to push them to live that and really push them to educate themselves on why ADA exists and why our organizations exist in this society right now. So pushing people to really educate themselves on why we have to exist as an organization, and also just to push people, I mean, on the technical side, to meet people where they are and watch the growth happen. I mean, so many companies are like, we don't want to lower our bar for this, we don't want to lower our bar, and it's like, people are just making an equitable bar. We're not asking you to lower it, we're just saying give people a chance to meet them where they're at, give them a chance and watch them grow, because it's amazing. Because, women, non-binary people, brown people have been left out of this for a long time. And so to watch them sort of flourish and grow and thrive in these companies is amazing. But it doesn't happen when someone's sort of looking down on you saying, well, you can't do it. Well, it's like, there's a lot of different factors that are pushing against why this person isn't exactly what you've seen out of MIT grads. So just give the space to let someone grow, meet people there are, and, we don't ask you to lower your bar, but just bringing an equitable bar around there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and for us, obviously get involved, right? There's a lot of ways to get involved, give money, give time, all that stuff's good. Get involved with the folks already doing work in the community. But I can also speak from my experience as a white cis dude working in tech and being in meetings and looking around, and literally everybody looks exactly like me, like a white youngish dude with a beard. And so if that's happening, one, pay attention to that. If that's a real thing and that's part of your experience, pay attention to that and notice that. And the second thing is be vocal about the fact that it's a priority for you to not have that exist, right? Be vocal about the fact that that's a problem, and be talking about your boss to it, be talking to your coworkers about it. And the reality is you're gonna mess up and you're not gonna have it right away, but at least showing up and being courageous and saying this matters to me, and it should matter to everybody else. If everybody at this conference went and talked to their boss about how they think that diversity should be a priority in the organization, and we should revisit how we hire and how we advance people and what people's experiences are in the office, that would totally change the culture of all of these companies that are here, right? So at the very least, just be aware of what's going on in your day-to-day experience, and then have conversations with the people around you about that dynamic.
And it's very actionable. I mean, each of us could commit to having a conversation.
Yeah, I would say three things, all right? Empathy, intentionality, and transparency, right? Understand the problem, be empathetic to the problem, be intentional about the solutions that you want to bring to the problem, right? So one of the things that I always say to our corporate partners, the reason why I started Floodgate was because I wanted to do something great for my community, but it doesn't have to be an organization. You literally can take somebody that doesn't look like you and just say, for the next year on weekends, for 3 hours, I'm going to teach you how to do full stack JavaScript. And when you're done, I'm going to hire you, right? Intentionality, just do the thing, right? And then transparency. She said it best, right? I don't know how many times I hear, we're not going to lower the bar. I'm not asking you to lower the bar. Just show me where the fucking bar is, right? Just tell me where it's at so I can get there, right? If you don't tell me where it's at, and then if I send people your way and you don't tell me where, how they missed it, you're not doing this industry a service. So just be transparent and be intentional about the feedback that you have. And if you don't have a plan and you're just honestly just want to help and you don't know how to do that, you got 4 people up here that can show you, concrete ways that you can get involved in the community or get involved into somebody else's life that doesn't look like you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for, number one, your time, sharing your stories, very powerful. I hope you all leave with either something you can do or at least you're inspired around how can we make tech more diverse and more inclusive. Enjoy the rest of your conference.